Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome. Today is Friday, March 20th, 2020. As you guys can see here, we have a full schedule. We are going to continue with our independent study packet, beginning with some reading comprehension, and then going into verbs, social studies, math, and science. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly get started because it is quite a bit that we have to get done today. All right, so if you don't have your packet, again, put this on pause, run and go grab your packet along with the pencil, and let's get started. Here is my packet. I'm gonna go ahead and write the date on here. And again, guys, I'm using a pen again. You guys, I want you guys using a pencil though. So today is the 20th. 20. There's the date. And I'm going to begin reading this. Here it's called The Pitch and Volume of Sound. Follow along with me right here as I begin where it says sound. Here we go. Sound can be measured. Some sounds are low. Some sounds are high. Pitch is how low or high a sound is. I'm going to highlight that, guys, because that's important information to know. So again, pitch, I'm going to highlight this, is how low or high a sound is. All right. If you don't have a highlighter, you can go ahead and underline that. I'm going to begin right here. I'm going to continue right here. An object or instrument that vibrates very slowly makes a sound with a low pitch. One that vibrates very quickly makes a sound with a high pitch. Have you ever noticed the different instruments that play in an orchestra? Sound travels in waves. The vibrations from the instruments reach your ear. You hear them as a sound. The bigger an instrument is, the lower the sound that it makes. A tiny flute, called a piccolo, has a very high pitch. A full-size flute has a much lower pitch. A violin's pitch is higher than a viola or bass. A trumpet's pitch is higher than a tuba's. Volume is different than pitch. You can use more or less volume to make a sound. I'm going to highlight that as well. Volume is different than pitch. And I'm also going to highlight here where it says, you can use more or less volume to make a sound, right here. You can make music I'm sorry, guys. Oh gosh, I don't know where, here it is, right there. You can make music or your voice louder or softer. Volume and pitch work together to make sounds. I'm highlighting that. Volume and pitch, they work together to make sounds. Next time you hear an instrument play, listen to the radio or even just listen to someone's voice as they talk or sing. See if you can hear the difference between the volume and the pitch. Number 1. What is the measurement of low or high sound called? Again, number 1. What is the measurement of low or high sound called? If I go back over here, the very beginning of this tells me that sound can be measured. Some sounds are low, some sounds are high. Pitch is how low or high a sound is. And over here again, it said, what is the measurement of low or high sound called? And that is called pitch. Is called pitch. Number 2, what is the measurement of loud or soft sound called? Again, here we have loud and soft. And the measurement of that is called volume. The difference between these two guys is that pitch measures how low or high a sound is, and volume measures how loud or soft a sound is. I want you to go ahead and do number 3, 4, and 5 on your own. I will read them to you. Number 3, how does sound travel? Number 4, what pitch would the sound from a large instrument have? And number 5, what pitch would the sound from a small instrument have? And you guys, if you don't remember you can always go back to the story to reread and find your answer. All right. If you want to go ahead and put this video on pause and then complete this section, and then you can play it again when you're ready to go on. I'm going to go on now with, can you sew a flag, Betsy Ross? And this is another story, guys, that we did read at the very beginning of the school year. Okay. So follow along with me. I'm starting here with paragraph 1. Something unforgettable happened in the shop today. Mrs. Betsy Ross took a break from sewing to have tea and a biscuit. I sat on the floor nearby, hoping for a crumb. A crumb. It's just a little piece of something. Actually, I'm going to write down tiny piece. That's what a crumb is, a tiny piece of something. Right here. Then the door flew open. In walked General George Washington, the great leader of our army. What can I do for you, sir? Betsy Ross asked him. Our new country needs a flag, General Washington said. The citizens should have a symbol that stands for our freedom. Can you sew a flag? So it told me here that the flag is going to be a symbol that stands for our freedom. And General George Washington is asking Betsy Ross if she can make a flag. Paragraph 5. I saw General Washington hold out a sketch. Mrs. Ross looked at the drawing of the flag he proposed. I see that your stars have 6 points, Mrs. Ross said. I think a 5-pointed star would be better. Mrs. Ross folded a piece of fabric, picked up her scissors, and cut a 5-pointed star with just one snip. General Washington was amazed. So was I, truth be told. The general agreed to the idea and left the shop. I watched as Mrs. Ross folded and cut long into the night. For days, Mrs. Ross cut and stitched. 13 5-pointed stars and 13 stripes represented the 13 colonies. I'm going to underline that because that's important. So the 13 5-pointed stars and the 13 stripes, they represented the 13 colonies. When General George Washington returned, Mrs. Ross proudly displayed the flag for him. Displayed. That means that she showed him the flag. A new flag for our country, the United States of America, he proclaimed happily. What a lucky mouse I was to be present on this important day in 1776. And there's a flag, guys. And you can see if we count the stars, there should be 13 of them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And over here, guys, it told us that the 13 stars were representing the 13 colonies, as well as 13 stripes. And then here she is working away. Next page. Here, guys, you have a double bubble map. And what I want you guys to do here on this side is the smoke jumpers. And then here on this side is Betsy Ross. A few days ago, I read you guys a story or the passage on smoke jumpers. And then today we read the passage on Betsy Ross. I want you guys to, let me turn the camera here. I want you to think of both stories that we read. And if you have to, you can always go back and get more information. Here in these 3 circles, you're gonna tell me what they have in common or what is similar between both stories. And then here on the outside, you're going to tell me what is different. You're gonna give me some facts about smoke jumpers, some facts about Betsy Ross, and then here you're gonna tell me what both of these stories have in common. All right? If you want to go ahead and put this on pause and then complete this and then push play when you're ready to continue. I'm going to go on now. So we did the pitch and volume of sound. We just completed Can You Sew a Flag, Betsy Ross. We're going to go on to verb endings. And we're talking about verbs that end in ED. Let me go ahead and date this. 2020. And here we go. Verbs ending in ED. It says when something happened in the past, a verb should be in the past tense. For many words, adding the ending ED to the verb makes it past tense. Example, talk. And then to change it to the past, I add ED, so my new verb becomes talked. Okay. It says change each of the following verbs to past tense. I want you guys to think about right now what a verb is. I'm going to give you some time to think about it. And we talked about this almost every single day. So you should know and you should remember that a verb is a word that shows action. If I can do it, then it's a verb. If I'm doing it right now, it's happening in the present. If I did it yesterday or early this morning, that means that it happened in the past. If I did something in the past, I have to change the verb. I have to add an ED to show that it happened in the past. So number 1, my verb is walk. If I'm doing it now, it's in the present. But if I did it early this morning, my new verb is going to be walked with an ED. So that will look like this. W-A-L-K-E-D. There you go, I added the ED. Number 2, park. Like I parked, like to park your car. Okay? If I did it in the past, my verb becomes parked. P-A-R-K-E-D, parked. A lot of the times, guys, remember that the ED at the end of a verb sounds like a t, but it's not. You have to remember that it's ED. Number 3, the verb is jump. If I jump, I'm doing it now. But if I did it yesterday, I jumped. So I'm going to add ED. J-U-M-P-E-D. I want you to go ahead and do the rest on your own. Okay? I will read them to you. Number 4, work. Number 5, pass. Number 6, cook. Number 7, play. Number 8, climb. Number 9, remember. And number 10 is thank. All right, so go ahead and do those on your own. You can put this on pause and then push play when you're completed and you're ready to move on. Let's move on to social studies. We are going to discuss and read about primary sources. Okay. I am going to put the date on top of this page. All right. Now, guys, remember, this is not the first time we've heard about primary sources. We actually read about it in our last unit. We were talking about the 5 primary sources. We talked about how, like, an interview, I can use interviews for primary sources. I can use artifacts. I can use pictures and paintings, writings, news articles. All of those are considered primary sources. So this is going to go, again, back into primary sources. Follow along with me. It says compare primary and secondary sources. Okay. So you guys already know primary, but you don't know secondary sources. All right. It says we can learn who, what, where, when, and how from primary and secondary sources. We can ask questions about sources to help us learn. Number 3 here, it's a reading check. It says, look at this photograph from the past. Write one question you have about the photograph. Here's the photograph from the past. I want you to think right now, what is one question that you might have about this photograph? I know one question I have. I'm thinking right now that this car looks pretty old, and I'm kind of wondering, when was this car made? What year was it built? So I am going to write my question down right here. If you have a different question, write it down. I'm going to say, when was this car built? And my question mark. And look, it says we can learn who, what, where, and when. You might have another question and you might be wondering, who are these people? Looks like 2 ladies there, or maybe 3 ladies. Okay, that's another question that I have. You can have more than one. I'm going to say, who are these ladies? Who are they? Another question you might have is, where are they going? Maybe they're going somewhere like to a party or something. It looks like they're dressed pretty fancy with their little hats on, and it looks like they might be wearing dresses. So you might be wondering, where are they going? Okay, write that down. Where are they going? I want you to think of one more question that you might have about this picture. I'll give you some time. And let's go on. Follow along with me. It says, to tell if a source is primary or secondary, ask this question. Okay, so I'm going to be learning about primary and secondary sources, and there's a difference. It says, was the person there when the event happened? If the person was there, the source is primary. Okay, let me underline that. Okay, was the person there when the event happened? If that person was there, the source is a primary source. It says, suppose you give a report on cars from a century or 100 years ago. Your report is a secondary source because you did not see or drive those cars. Okay? So if you're giving a report about a car that was built 100 years ago, your report is going to be a secondary source because you were not there when that car was built and you never drove the car. Right? It says here, you did not live during that time. So your report is a secondary source, right here. An interview is another type of primary source. When a news reporter interviews the president, that interview is a primary source. Oral history, a recorded interview with someone from the past, helps us learn about history. So if you are the one actually doing the interview, guys, then that makes that a primary source because it's actually you doing the interview. Okay. Number 4, you're going to do this on your own. Okay? It says, look at each source. So here's your sources. You have 4 of them. You have a biography of Harriet Tubman, castle architecture, a photo of Jackie Robinson, and an encyclopedia. You have 4 sources. Write a P below each primary source and write an S below the secondary source. So if the source is a primary source, you're going to write a P. If the source is a secondary source, you're going to write an S. Remember, a primary source is if you were there when that happened, and a secondary source is if you didn't see that event happen. You're only reading about it. All right? So all you're going to do is you're going to write the P or the S right here on the bottom. Okay? And that was our social studies, guys, on primary sources. Let's move on to some math. All right? Date it. And here we go. Let's start off with see and show. Follow along with me. You can subtract to find the difference. Difference is when you subtract. To find the difference, you need to subtract. Find how many frogs are left. You're going to be doing 2 things here, guys. You're going to be subtracting all or subtracting 0. Subtracting all. Here's an example. 5 take away 5 equals 0. Because you have 5 and you have to take away 5, subtracting 5, you have 0 frogs are left. And again, here's a picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're asking me to take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many are left? 0. Right here. And I can do it here with the cubes too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like they did it, but it's so dark you can't really tell. And they crossed out 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 left. 0 frogs are left. Now when you subtract 0, right? Again, I have 5 frogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to subtract 0. And like I told you guys before, when you think of 0, it's kind of like nothing. So if you have 5, take away 0 or nothing, how many are left? 5. Because I don't take anything away. So there are 5 frogs left. Let's do a couple together. Number 1, 13 take away 13. I am subtracting all. Okay? So 13 take away 13 is 0. 13 take away 0 is, and again, you have 0, so you're taking nothing. So it is 13. Number 2, blank equals 7, take away 0. You have 7, take away nothing is 7. And then 7, take away 7, so you're taking all of it, so you have 0 left. Number 3, 6, take away 6. You are subtracting all, so you have 0. Here, subtract 0. 6, take away 0 is 6. Number 4, 8, take away 0 is 8. And then 8, subtract 8 is 0. There it is. Again, you are subtracting all or subtracting 0. I would like for you to go ahead And let's date this. On my own, it says subtract, circle the problem if the difference is 0. So you're going to circle the problem if your answer was 0. All right. I want you to go ahead and do this on your own. Do numbers 5 through 24. And remember to circle the problem if the difference was 0. So if the answer was 0, you are going to circle it. So for example, number 7, 4 minus 4, you're subtracting all. So the answer here is going to be 0. I want you to circle it. Another one. Let's see, number 9. You have 8. Subtract 8. Again, you're taking all. That is 0. So you're going to circle it. Go ahead and continue working till you get to number 24. Put this on pause, finish it up, and then continue with this. And the last thing for today, guys, is science. Let's talk about what is motion. Here it is. And we are on lesson 2. I'm going to date it. And here we go. Some vocabulary here before we begin. Motion, it's the act of moving. So when I move, that is motion. Force, a push or pull that makes something move. So again, force is going to be a push or a pull, and it makes something move. All right, here we go. Motion. Follow along with me. Motion is the act of moving. Objects move in different ways. Objects can move in a straight line. Objects can move back and forth. Objects can move in a circle too. The speed of motion can change. The direction of motion can change too. Force. A force is a push or pull that makes something move. An object moves in the direction it is pushed or pulled. An object will not move without force. An object will not speed up without force. An object will not slow down without a force. You need more force to move a heavy object. You need less force to move a light object. Questions. I want you guys to remember that you can always come back here to find your answers. Okay? Let's date it. Number 1 says, what is motion? Motion is the act of, I'm going to go back over here. It tells me right there. Motion is the act of moving. Right there. I'm going to write it down right here. Moving. Objects can move in a straight line. What are other ways objects can move? Circle the sentences that tell 2 other ways objects can move. I'm going to go back over here and let's look at 2 ways that objects can move. Again, it says motion is the act of moving. Objects move in different ways. Objects can move in a straight line. It tells me right there. I'm going to underline it. Circle it. Objects can move in a straight line. An object can move back and forth. I'm going to circle that. So I circled 2 ways that objects can move. They can move in a straight line and back and forth. Number 2, what is force? A force is a push or blank that makes something move. I'm going to go back over here. Force right here. It told me a push or a pull that makes something move. So what is a force? A force is a push or a pull that makes something move. Okay? Next one right here. You need blank force to move a heavy object. What kind of force do I need to move a heavy object? We did read about that. It's over here in this paragraph. All right. See if you guys can find it. Oh, I found it. It says right here. You need more force to move a heavy object. So you need more force. So right here, you need more force. Force to move a heavy object. And then the last one, you need blank force to move a light object. So what if an object is not very heavy, it's light? What kind of force do I need? It says right here, you need less force. So over here, you need less force. Force to move a light object. And we are done for today, guys. Let's go back here. In our independent study packet, we talked about pitch and volume. We read our story of Can You Sew a Flag, Betsy Ross? We did our worksheet on verb endings, verbs ending in ED. We talked about primary sources. In math, we worked on subtracting all or subtracting 0. And we just completed our science worksheet on what is motion. Before we go, guys, I have a very important announcement that I need some help with. So hold on. Girls, hurry. I want to take some time to wish, let me turn my camera here. Genesis a very happy birthday. So these girls are gonna help me sing, guys. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Cha cha cha. Happy birthday to you. Cha cha cha. Happy birthday, dear Genesis. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Genesis. Enjoy some cake. There's our piece of cake that we're going to enjoy for you. Thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you guys back on Monday. Have a nice weekend.